My advice would be to write the ending first and always have the message in mind the entire time you're writing. If you always have the overall message in mind of the book, each chapter of the way, then you're in full control.
That was special author guest Jonathan Watson sharing his advice to authors. Stay tuned to hear more about Jonathan's journey as an author here on Pages and Voices. I'm your host, Meg Bell. We'll be back after the intro. Welcome to Pages and Voices, the local author podcast, sponsored by the Allen County Public Library. This podcast is dedicated to featuring the works of talented authors within our community. Today's guest is Jonathan Watson, author of Elsie's Tune, One Last Song to Overcome. Jonathan is passionate about writing, public speaking, and traveling. His other loves include long-distance running and chess. He graduated from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida in 2009 with a degree in political science. After graduation, he became an English and history teacher in Bahrain for 10 years, finishing up in 2019. Now working in non-inventory at Amazon, he lives with his wife and daughter in Fort Wayne. His biggest dreams are to be a best-selling author, a very busy public speaker, and to run a marathon on all 7 continents of the world. Jonathan, welcome to Pages and Voices.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your writing journey with us today. So, as always, I'm going to have you share a reading from the book, but before you do, let me tell our listeners about it. Elsie Ragusin began life with everything laid out. She was passionate about God, music, and her family. However, life would soon test her in the most unimaginable ways, and she had to completely rely on her Christian faith to survive. There were times she never ate and felt too weak to work in the concentration camps, yet music and the hope of getting back to her family sustained her throughout those long days of 1945. 75 years later, Elsie is still trying to overcome those haunting memories, where she used the talents God has given her to show her family one can truly overcome anything. Listen and follow along with Elsie's Tune. Jonathan, I'm going to let you share your reading now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan, for inviting me to your podcast. It's a great honor to be here. So I'm grateful you're as excited about Elsie's story as me and many other people.
Yeah, of course.
So she's been an enormous inspiration for everyone. And like you said, I'll read a quick excerpt from the book that will really tell the true story and character of Elsie on how she endured the Holocaust. So this excerpt comes from chapter 18, where Elsie was at Auschwitz and she had to report outside her barracks for roll call every morning. So the capo guards who worked for the Nazis overlooked them. Mm-hmm. So here goes the excerpt. She heard the whistle blow from outside the barrack. The person blowing it seemed to have enough energy to blow it for another hour or so. Everyone was moving extremely quickly to go outside. The tremendously weak ones took longer. Elsie did not want to do that. As she went outside the barrack, it was 2:30 a.m. and still very much dark outside. Not only that, but it was also pouring rain. Yet, everyone seemed unmoved. Elsie learned through routine that putting herself in the middle of the stand-up area and not in the front or in the back or on the aisles avoided beatings from the guards. An enormous sense of fear entered her, though. She couldn't let it in. She just couldn't. She knew the guards would all get the best of her if they saw it in her. How could she counterattack that
sudden and pernicious fear?
There was no sun outside, yet the only song that came to her mind was O Sole Mio. She knew the entire lyrics in Italian. The song was playing in her head. As each person raised their hands for roll call, and as each guard walked about, she imagined it entirely as part of the song. Each person in the entire area played a role in the beautiful melody. As the capo guard moved elegantly, the lyrics played, N'aria serena dopo una tempesta. As each hand was raised up from the girls in line, the lyrics played, Pellaria fresca paragia na festa. She imagined the girls lifting their hands up to feel the beautiful sun and the guards helping them to finally feel it. Then the guard called her number out, 8, 2, 3, 8, via, which means 8, 2, 3, 8, 4. Elsie raised her hand. Then the part of the song, Ma natula sole caccio bello onne, o sole mio, sta fronte a te, came. She strengthened herself with the determination to get back to her fiancé Antonio. As the guards were telling each person what their job for the day would be, she reminded herself of the Bible quote from Matthew 10, verse 16. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Help me, O God, to know the minds of those guards. Show your grace towards me. Help me to be as wise as a serpent. Show me how black their hearts are, so that I can know their every move and get back to my Antonio. Help me, Father above.
Jonathan, thank you for bringing part of your story to life for our listeners. That was amazing. So, your story of Elsie's life reads like historical fiction at times. Obviously, World War II and the Holocaust happened, but the way the story unfolds is breathtaking because it is unique. I want to say what a gift that you knew Elsie and were able to help her tell her story in such a meaningful way. Despite everything that happened and the loss she endured, Elsie maintained her faith in God and led a full life. It wasn't without its hardships, but she knew love, had a miracle child, and put down roots in Florida later in life to be close to family. She epitomized true strength. I want to make it clear that she was not Jewish. She was an Italian-American who got taken because German soldiers didn't like her last name. It wasn't common to where she was at. I got the impression they thought that she and her father were spies or Jews being hidden. They seemed bound and determined to accuse them of something based on their last name. But we talked about that a little bit before the podcast. So before I jump into the questions, can you shed light on why the guards wanted to why they took them?
So, as I tell in the story, the two Nazi soldiers knock on their door, and they're obviously looking for Jews. They're looking for Jews everywhere, because the Italians during the war were not as cooperative in handing over the Jews to the Nazis. So, they went on a spree, and they accused Elsie and her father of being political spies, of espionage. So, they were taken to concentration camps for that reason. But they did not wear the Star of David as the Jews did. They wore an upside-down red triangle. And the upside-down red triangle symbolized a political spy.
She still had that red triangle, correct?
She did.
Yeah, okay. So can you tell our listeners how you came to know and be friends with Elsie?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a junior in high school in Daytona Beach, Florida, at Father Lopez High School. I was in the library, and I was reading the newspaper, and in the bottom corner of the newspaper was her story. I'm like, I got to meet this lady. So I contact the lady who wrote the article, and she connects us. And this is back in 2004. We became best friends, like mother-son, ever since. And her story, and she never, every time we got together, it was never... It was less about her relating her story and more about the friendship between us two.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me.
Absolutely. So how old were you when you decided you wanted to record her story?
So for so long, for so many years, the friendship built and built. She wrote her first book back in 2007-ish.
It's pretty small, right?
Yeah, it was a small book, but like I tell in the beginning of the book, it didn't really tell her full story. And I really felt that she needed to let it out. She really needed to let readers know her true feelings, her spirit that endured during and after the Holocaust. So at Christmas 2020, I sat down with her at her dining table along with her son Ronnie and my wife. The four of us were talking, and we came to the conclusion it was now time for her to tell her story.
And I want to make it clear, she was 98 years old, correct?
99.
99, yes. So what was your great motivator? You talk about it in the book, but what was your great motivator for writing down her story?
My love for her, basically.
Yeah.
I did it because we had a special connection.
Right.
My love for history, and also me and her as a long-term friendship, and that connection that we've had as an honorary family member was the big motivator.
And I assume you've stayed in touch with the family. You have pictures of them in the back.
Absolutely. Ronnie is the one I stay in touch with the most. I also message every now and then Lauren, who's the second to last chapter, as well as Gina and Mike, the two grandchildren of Elsie.
Okay. So had you written anything prior to that point in time? Any book or anything?
So I've submitted some short stories online.
Okay.
That was about it in terms of published or that sort. But I am about 70% done with a fiction book that I'm writing. So I prefer to read nonfiction, but I prefer to write fiction. But this book, because it's someone I personally knew for a long time, it's a nonfiction book. So it took a lot out of me, but I'm really proud of the result.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much responsibility did you feel to get Elsie's story right?
I focused the book mainly on getting her character and spirit in the story as best as possible. As far as the facts go, I relied a lot on everything she told me. I did do a lot of research to match her facts, but I really wanted to tell the story from her point of view. So in terms of fact base, it's everything from what she saw.
Yeah. And she was at Auschwitz and Ravensbrück. Is that is the second place she was at, right?
Correct, Ravensbrück, yeah.
Ravensbrück. The names that she names, these men that she came into contact with, these are all names we've heard. Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Eichmann, Heinrich Himmler. She has an incredible story from that time. It just blew my mind. So
absolutely, yeah. She saw she saw Eichmann in person.
And she tried to see Himmler. But
Himmler, yeah.
Himmler, yeah. I'm saying everybody's name's wrong. Forgive me. But she tried to see him to plead her case because she was not Jewish and she'd been falsely accused as American on this island Lošinj in Italy, which is now Croatia. But so she's trying to prove her innocence, but nobody will listen to her. And then he was somewhere else the day that she went to his home. Like she was literally taken to his home and had tea. And I was like, oh my word, this is incredible.
Exactly, yeah. Himmler was the second in command of Germany, so Hitler's right-hand man, along with Joseph Goebbels, the chief of propaganda.
I'm going to say his name, Heinrich. I'm just going to say the first name. He's the one that designed the camps, is that correct?
Correct. He was named the architect of the Holocaust, so he overlooked the Holocaust.
That's not something you want to be remembered for, but that's what he's remembered for, huh?
But, cool fact is that toward the very end of the war, he made a deal with the Swedish Red Cross to release some of the prisoners, Elsie included. So to Hitler, that was treason. Yes,
I saw that he got taken and then he committed suicide.
Correct.
In captivity, or
correct.
Captured. Okay, so back to the questions. Elsie passed in November of 2021, and the book was released in March of 24. How much did she get to see?
So I actually finished writing the book 5 days before her passing. I was able to show it to her, and that meant such an incredible amount to me. It did take a while to get it published because I needed funding to get it published through a traditional market publishing company. I did not want to self-publish it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of barriers when you self-publish. I'm not against it, but it wasn't the right time for me because as a first-time author, I would highly recommend trying to do traditional market publishing because there's a lot of people who are familiar with how to get the book out there as much as possible. So to me, that was the best way to go.
Okay. So what was the hardest part for Elsie to share with you?
So her time in Ravensbrück was the hardest time for her to share. So
that was the second camp she was at.
That was the second camp she had. So she'd had a horrible time at Auschwitz, as I explained in the book, but she had an even worse experience at Ravensbrück concentration camp. And that concentration camp is in northern Germany, for anyone wondering where it is. And they did experiments on different people, and she was not excluded. And for her to share that with me was very hard. So I just remember holding her hand and looking at her in the eyes, and she's holding back tears as she's telling the story. But that was a moment I will never forget because that was the closest I've ever felt to Elsie.
I'm holding back tears just hearing you talk about it, so I can imagine. So how long did it take for Elsie to share her story?
So I sat with her for 3 days. I wrote everything on my laptop, called her several times a week for the next 6 months. And after the 6 months, I knew her health was failing at that point, but I had everything I needed to write her story.
Okay. Was there a part of the story that was hard for you to write?
For me, the hardest part to write was the last 2 chapters. They're the highest emotional parts of the book. It's when Elsie is having closure with her family on what happened to her and to move on. Mm-hmm. For me, I felt part of that family. Mm-hmm. And it was a crying moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like her and her son Ronnie had some things that they needed to put behind them. So to be front row to that would be
and just
emotional.
like every family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every family needs to put pride aside in order to get closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how long did it take you to write the book once you began?
So I cried a lot while writing those chapters. It took about a couple weeks to write them, but I wrote the last chapter about a month after her passing. Okay. So the first 39 chapters, I was able to show it to Elsie.
Okay.
So that took about 9 months to write.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the 40th chapter after her passing.
Okay. Yes. So were there any resources you found valuable while writing the book?
So I relied a lot on the British Britannica online. That was my big go-to, and you could see it in the footnotes as well.
Okay. And so the book is published by Trilogy Christian Publishers out of California. How did you get connected with them?
So there aren't many places that offer first-time authors traditional market publishing. And like I said before, it is the way I wanted to go.
Yeah, sure.
My wife actually researched it online and recommended it to me.
Okay.
And so I went with it.
And they're part of the TBN network.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So did they provide the cover art and an editor for you?
So the cover art was all my idea. I went to Fiverr.com and...
Fiverr.com.
Yep, okay. Fiverr. So it's like Etsy.
Okay.
You pay someone to design something.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I got a guy in Saudi Arabia who's super talented to design exactly the way I wanted it on the front cover, as well as the illustration before chapter 1.
Okay.
So I paid him to do it.
And so how about an editor?
So the editor was provided by the publishing company.
Okay, got it. What advice would you give an author working on their first book?
My advice would be to write the ending first and always have the message in mind the entire time you're writing.
Yeah.
Now, if you are just writing just for the sake of putting paragraph after paragraph, you're not 100% sure where it's going, that's the wrong way to go, because that's how people end up with writer's block. That's how people stop getting interested in continuing writing.
Right.
But if you always have the overall message in mind of the book, each chapter of the way, then you're in full control.
Yeah, I like that, because you always got that one aim in mind. So no matter the chapter you're writing, you're aiming for that one thing.
Absolutely.
So, okay, that makes sense. I like that. What's the one thing you want readers to take away from this book? Which I want to mention, I have failed to mention yet. This book has won several awards. So you've won the International Impact Book Award, the gold winner of the Nonfiction Book Awards of the Nonfiction Authors Association. That's a mouthful. The Regal Summit Award, and the American Writing Awards. So that's amazing. Did you put the book up for those awards?
Correct.
Okay. Everything online?
Yep. So I submitted those books online. They want an electronic version of those books. Uh-huh. And I won. So it was pretty cool.
Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
So I think I got away from my question, though. What's the one thing you want readers to take away from the book?
So I want readers to know that everyone goes through hard times of rejection and trauma from their past. Just like Elsie did, you can overcome those adversities. So I want people to be inspired. I want people to read this book and see what Elsie went through, see what she overcame, and see that their own problems are not as big as what Elsie went through.
Right.
And Elsie overcame them.
Yeah.
And so
She
can
survived,
you.
yeah.
And basically, whatever you're going through in life is a tool. It's not a setback, it's a tool for you to use in order to use for the rest of the world as a resource. So if you did not grow up with the best role model parents, then your tool would be a good judgment of character. And you're able to see people in a more realistic viewpoint, in a faster viewpoint than someone who would grow up with more stable parents.
Right.
Because it's easier to take that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next, Jonathan? Do you have anything else on the horizon?
To be very honest with you, Meg, I really don't know. I'm enjoying my job at Amazon at the moment. Like my bio said, though, I'd love to be a full-time author, speaker, and accomplish my goal of running a marathon on all 7 continents of the world.
So I have a couple of questions based on what you just said. So you have ran some marathons. How many? Where are we at on the 7 continents?
So it's been a while since I've run. I've had a lot of, I shouldn't say setbacks, I should say tools, but I've run 2 marathons. I've run one in Walt Disney World, Florida,
Oh,
so
okay,
that's
yeah.
North America, and I've run one in Edinburgh, Scotland,
Okay.
in Europe.
So you got 2.
Yeah, so I ran that while I was studying abroad in England, in northern England at the time. But that was when I was 19 and 21 years old, so I'm 38 right now. But my dream has always been to get back into running, but injury, sickness, busy schedules, kids, family, money. So all of these issues have always had a play in me getting into that intense shape
Yeah, that it's required.
that's required to complete those marathons.
Yeah,
But
certainly.
miracles do happen.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I'm still believing in them.
Yeah, good for you. So, and then how much public speaking do you do?
I mainly speak about leadership, communication, and team building. You can see that on my website at jonathanwatson.org. So those are my main speaking topics, but it doesn't have to be limited to that. It can be about travel, which I've been to 35 countries. It can be about book writing, anything that can be tailored, I can do.
Does Elsie factor into your public speaking quite a bit?
It can.
Yeah, yeah. Her story is so big. I feel like you could, make it apply to a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely. So if I get requested to speak about Elsie, I'll do it.
Yeah. So where were you at when you wrote the story about Elsie? Where were you living? Were you here in America?
I was in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And I moved there from the Middle East back in 2019. So I spent 10 years in the Middle East. And in 2019, I migrated back to America, but it was in Denver when I migrated. So I spent 3 years there along with my wife. My daughter was born there, but we moved to Fort Wayne when she was 5 months old.
Okay.
So
All right.
she's now 3 years old.
Yeah.
She's playing in the library right now.
Yeah. It's a great space. I'm glad she's enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm going to move into some fun questions now. What books do you enjoy reading?
My favorite genre is historical biographies.
Yeah, makes sense, right?
So I love reading about people and their character and how they changed the world.
And if you could spend the day with another popular author, who would you choose?
For me, it's a tie between Doris Kearns Goodwin and David McCullough.
Yeah. Yeah, those are both great choices. You learn a lot. Well, David McCullough, I guess, can't really do that anymore, right? Didn't he pass away? But Doris is still around.
Yep, that's right.
Well, for this book, yeah. Did you do any traveling as research for this book?
I have not. I mostly research online. I did try contacting different groups of people, like the Italian club of families who did previously live on the islands that are now owned by Croatia, who emigrated back to their homeland, and they want to maintain that culture in society. But our communication was limited because they don't speak English and I don't speak Italian.
Yeah, yeah. So I do want to say, based on something you just said, if you look online, you can see Elsie speaking. She's in a documentary, Every Face Has a Name. And then there's pictures of her from, I think, like Auschwitz or the other camp she was in. I think they have
Ravensbrück mainly.
Yeah, there's pictures there that you can see her as well. Plus, there's pictures at the back of the book, and she was darling. But it's really cool when you're reading the book to look it up online and to see her speaking, because you hear her voice, and then it makes it even more personal. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I do recommend watching Every Face Has a Name. It really justifies the hard work that went into it. So,
and she became friends with the people that coordinated that
absolutely
documentary.
Yep.
From what I understand.
Yes, she did.
So, a couple more fun questions. Did you celebrate when you finished the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a ritual of mine that whenever a huge accomplishment happens, I go out and buy an expensive cigar to smoke. So I'm not a regular smoker, though, I promise. But you'll find out in the book, in the last chapter, I smoke a cigar every October 18th. So every year on October 18th, I smoke a cigar.
Okay.
So I'll just say it. It's the day that Elsie told me that she loved me as her son. Mm-hmm. And that meant the world to me.
Cause for celebration.
Yep. So that's my ritual.
Yeah, I like
that's
it.
the only time I smoke in the year.
I don't think one time a year is going to hurt too much. So last but not least, Jonathan, how can fans reach you?
So they can reach me at jonathan@jonathanwatson.org. That's my email. Now, if you can't remember that, it's on my Facebook page. All you need to do is go to Facebook and type in Elsie's Tune by Jonathan Watson. You'll see the Facebook page there, and right on the front page is my email. You can email me anytime. If anyone buys the copy, I promise them, I will sign it and hopefully get to know you as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Meg. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I've enjoyed getting to know you better, for sure.
Yeah, as you as well.
Thank you. And thank you to those who listened in. Stay tuned for more authors on Pages of Voices. I'm your host, Meg Bell. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on Pages and Voices, a source for local authors and their stories. From the studios of Access Fort Wayne at the Allen County Public Library in downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana, I'm your host, Meg Bell. A special thank you to Kay Gregg for her work engineering and editing this episode. We've explored fascinating stories and insightful discussions today, but our journey doesn't end here. Find more episodes of Pages and Voices wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with the area's authors and their insights into the written word. Until next time, keep turning the pages, and we look forward to welcoming you back soon.